queen of rage?
Absolutely. Listen, this came out of a week where a New York Times columnist called the Tea Party terrorists and then apologized the next week. This is a very polarized moment in politics, and this cover to us absolutely captured that moment.
You know something? Michele Bachmann should not trust the mean girls on the left as her friends because of womanhood. At this point, she'd be better off building a time machine, going back into the 60s, falling in love, and touring with Ike Turner than she would trusting those women.
Newsweek and Daily Beast editor-in-chief Tina Brown and comedian and radio show host Dennis Miller reacting to this week's Newsweek cover with the photo of Michele Bachmann, something which has received all kinds of media attention this week, calling her the Queen of Rage. What's been the overall media reaction to that, Judy?
Well, I think hats off to Tina Brown, who is a genius at getting people to talk about her covers, because that's what the media have done. They have dissected left, right. It's outrageous, it's sexist, said the National Organization of Women. Surprise, surprise. I think the best comment that I read came from Roland Martin on CNN Opinion. He said the problem was the cover photo didn't really support the headline. She didn't look angry and furious, she looked kind of crazy. So if they'd said Queen of Craze, that would have been all right.
Well, and then there is the photo. I mean, I'm sure they had 10,000 photos of Michele Bachmann they could have selected, Andrea.
Well, and I talked to the Bachmann campaign. That actual photo was taken during a lighting test. And they were even asked, is this photo going to be used? If you've ever done a photo shoot, they take a couple pictures, and anyone looks, even someone as beautiful as Michele Bachmann, looks like they're looking in a different direction. So that was a real cheap shot. I mean, to take a lighting picture deliberately with that headline, but it's not surprising. Remember in 2008, they did it to Sarah Palin. They took a super close-up picture, unretouched, and put on the cover, Sarah Palin is one of the folks, and in parentheses, and that's the problem. So look, I think Tina Brown is struggling, as Judy said, to be relevant, and I also think that she is very sickly and insanely jealous of these younger conservatives.
Did you see?
I do.
Mediaite did a bunch of pictures that they didn't put on the cover, and she looked a little nutty in all of them. So, I mean, I think she's a beautiful woman, but her eyes look a little crazy sometimes.
You know what really should be said here, and that is that, first of all, Tina Brown is a sleaze. Anybody who's worked for Tina Brown knows that. Let me have my opinion. You've all stated yours. She'll do anything for circulation. However, this was a very inspired choice, because the idea behind this choice is she may be nuts. I think she is nuts. And you know something? That's a question that hasn't been answered yet. So I give her kudos for raising the question, even though it was within this sleazy motivation.
Wait a minute, who's raised the question? I'm sorry, nobody's raised the question. Because she has migraine headaches, she's accused of being nuts? I haven't seen that accusation.
No, it's her views.
Oh, I've seen it everywhere. You haven't talked to enough conservatives as I have.
Well,
they really think she's off balance.
Well, Chris Matthews has made comments before about her looking dazed when she did the rebuttal.
Yes.
But when you have Jon Stewart even coming out to defend you and saying this was a cheap shot, I think that there's some validity here to Tina Brown's, as Liz put it.
But Liz, you're saying conservatives think she's a little off. You're saying conservatives think that.
Anybody I've talked to is conservatives. I mentioned that as a sort of extreme example. But I mean, you can't possibly sit there without smiling and think that this woman comes from sort of the mainstream and has mainstream views.
What is it?
It's not the first time, though, that Newsweek has been accused of sort of mean-spirited, anti-Republican or anti-conservative.
Do we recall some of the pictures of Hillary Clinton when she was running, and they would make her look odd or weird angles? This is
We're
not
speaking
the
about
first time.
Newsweek, and if you look at the
I
covers
see. You don't
that
like
they
when I bring up the other side. I'm sorry.
No, Alan, we're talking about the covers that they did of
I'm
Barack
talking
Obama,
about the way
of
they
Newsweek,
treat. I'm talking about the way they treat
that they did. Let me finish. Of Barack Obama, who looked almost celestial. This was Newsweek before they went bankrupt and were sold for $1.
Well, that's because he is celestial.
It's really a pamphlet.
How about the 1987 cover of George H.W. Bush, where they said, "Can he fight the wimp factor?" Right?
Yes. I mean, people get these adjectives attached to them. You know, George.
Well, that's
Bush
why
is
it's a
wimp.
pamphlet and not a magazine anymore.
I think that the public will decide that, and Tina Brown has done amazing things with the Daily Beast.
Well, the liberal press, like the New York Times, whatever happened to Barack? I'm sorry, Liz. What happened to Barack Obama?
All right.
In the New York Times, the liberal New York Times.
If we're going to have to take another break, if you see something that you think shows evidence to you of media bias, email us, newswatch@foxnews.com.